So good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to introduce co-founder of Linked Automation and host of Maxon TV, a YouTube channel for CEOs and entrepreneurs, Max Landesman. So welcome, Max.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So Max, firstly, I'd like to congratulate you on all your achievements. So can you share with us how your entrepreneurial journey started?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would definitely say that it was primarily out of a need from my own. I just don't like taking orders from other people. And I
Sure.
quickly learned that by, essentially by working in the private sector and just seeing how inefficient, honestly, everything is run. And the fact that, if you have an idea and you bring it to a manager that you would think that out of the betterment of the business, they would listen to you. I quickly learned that is not the case.
No,
And
never.
yeah, and the only way I quickly realized that the only way to really do anything about anything is to do it yourself. That's kind of
Yes,
how everything started.
yes. Um, so what are some of your biggest career lessons and learnings been throughout your professional career?
Well, one of the lessons I would say is that people think that once you get hired somewhere that everything will be fine. They never have to worry about a thing anymore. And one of the things I would think that I definitely learned is nobody really cares about you at all when it comes to like a business. They will fire you almost immediately if they have they found a different solution or they found something cheaper or whatever. They will
Mm,
not keep you around. You have to understand that everyone, I feel like, in the business world is really out for themselves.
mm,
And so the more someone can bring to the table, the more value you can bring, the harder and harder it is for someone to honestly get rid of you. And
mm.
that's where I feel like a lot of things should be stressed on just bringing more and more value than anybody else can. And so they honestly can't get rid of you that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you share with us more about your business, Linked Automation, and how this came about, um, and what the business is about?
Sure. Yeah. So this was an opportunity actually brought to me by my twin brother,
Okay.
Saul. And he came to me and he said that LinkedIn actually has a platform called ProFinder, which is LinkedIn's version of putting service providers together with people looking for that service. So the number one most demanded service on that platform right now are resume writers and career coaches. And so
Yes.
he came to me and said, by the way, there's this huge demand for resume writing. And a lot of resume writers, especially people that I've come across, they don't like to sell. They don't like talking to people on the phone. Honestly, they really just like doing the actual work.
Yes.
And it's also very difficult for them to actually produce, to get clients and prospects consistently. And so we were filling that void to essentially sending them leads consistently without them having to do any of the legwork. So we essentially took advantage of that opportunity.
Amazing. So I want to talk about entrepreneurship and the challenges as a founder you have had, as well as what makes your business different and what problem does your business solve. I mean, you did touch on that in the previous question, but yeah, just in terms of the challenges and what makes you different.
Yeah, so definitely the challenges as far as just being a founder is you're going to have your ups and downs. They're going to have to deal with things that you as a business owner, that you're essentially your paycheck depends on it.
Yes.
And so you have to have kind of a thicker skin in the game, because if you don't, you will want to either quit or jump off the building after the first week. So you have to have a really tough skin. You have to have, excuse my French, balls of steel,
Yes.
essentially, because
Yeah.
things will happen, guaranteed. And so get into what makes us different. What makes us different is that we fully guarantee results. I don't know if there's anybody who actually will do that. We do, because of how confident we are in our abilities to actually produce. We fully guarantee results. When somebody calls me with a problem, I actually answer the phone.
Yes,
And
of course.
yeah, and we actually do things a little bit differently. We offer like soup to nuts solution. Anything our clients need. For example, if someone needs a complete LinkedIn profile overhaul, we will do that. We have a professional copywriter on hand that will literally not only write an entire, about me section on their LinkedIn. We will write proposals that are sent in on ProFinder. We also, if need be, which I've done in the past, give sales training to people that need it. So a client of ours called me and he's like, Max, I had 30 you guys sent me 30 appointments. I got on the phone with all of them. I just could not close one of them. And so I said, let's speak. I spoke to him for an hour and trained him up on sales. The next day he called me. He's like, I just closed my first deal, $600, whatever it is.
Wow,
And
that's
so,
amazing. Yeah, because that's the biggest issue is like you were talking about and you touched on earlier, is like people don't necessarily want to be sold to. So it's the art and the master of actually or mastering how to sell. And that's where I think a lot of people, especially now with the way things are, struggle to close.
Yeah. And especially in this business, like resume writing, career coaching, the real money is in career coaching. Resume writing is really just an introductory type of offer. So, let's say someone does a resume for $300-$400. I mean, it's $300-$400. Career coaching be $2,000. So,
of course.
We teach our clients methods of how to actually take a client from resume writing to a career coaching client. And it's really just all about what someone really needs and just having them identify what they need. Like, if someone asks for a resume, right? As opposed to just saying, yeah, I can do that for you, whatever. You can also say like, I can certainly do that for you. It sounds like are you looking for a new job? And just ask them questions and let them talk, and they'll quickly identify that they probably need more than a resume. They probably need career coaching advice as well. So we coach them up on that as well. So we essentially a soup to nuts solution.
And I also think it's like you said now, which is very important, is you actually listen to what the client wants. I mean, obviously you help them to navigate, but I think that's very important because I think very often people go to, services or service providers, and very often they just don't listen to what the client wants, and then the relationship becomes soured. So I think that's very important in terms of listening to your client's needs as well.
That's honestly, yeah, when you're on the phone, you're not selling at all. The only thing you're doing is asking questions.
Yes.
That's the only thing you're supposed to be doing. And then finally, once everything becomes very, everything's kind of laid out on the table, you as a professional can then display to the prospect, this is how I feel I can help you. This is what I think you need. And then you go from there. And that's how things get done.
Absolutely. So I want to now talk about leadership or the lack of leadership. And what would you say makes your leadership style different? And can you give us some examples? And what do you believe entrepreneurs could do better to improve the current narrative?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually was just speaking to a close friend of mine. He's actually a doctor he's in Alabama. He's in this large hospital there. And he told me that their system is completely inefficient. What that means is exactly that he's supposed to be working in, let's say, hospital A, but they constantly send him to hospital B and back, hospital B and A, as opposed to and essentially that operation in hospital B, they shouldn't even be involved with. They're honestly just, and you would think that just going up to the CEO or just mentioning to him that this is a problem, he would listen. Well, he didn't. What did he do instead? The CEO hired a consultant, which he probably paid them $100,000, so that the consultant can probably just tell him, by the way, you should probably listen to what the doctors are telling you.
Yes.
Right? So if I remember when I was in grad school, the first professor I ever had, he told me he was a consultant,
Mm,
and he told me that, sometimes he got paid like $30,000 for a job. He got flown out on a private jet, and sometimes for as little as telling them, by the way, you need an extension cord. You
mm,
know, he told me he would come, he'd go up to CEOs like, what's the problem? He'd tell them the problem. He'd go to the workers, what's the problem?
mm.
He'd tell them the problem. He would ask the workers, so how do you fix the problem? They tell him, he go back to CEO, he's like, this is how you fix the problem. Where's my check? So
But he
it's
pays all
really,
that money. It's just ludicrous, isn't it?
he actually said, he's like, literally, if they would just talk to the employees, he would be out of a job.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so as far as leadership, I wouldn't necessarily say I am the smartest guy in the room, but
Mm,
I'm the smartest when it comes to I actually listen to other people, and I'm really just a sponge of knowledge from people that really know what's going on. And I think that's what makes me different. But as
yes,
far as the leadership perspective goes, people just need to open their mind, just listen to people. Listen, if you really want to know what's going on, you ask the people that are actually there. Don't ask your manager who sits in a cubicle with a computer. You need to really find out what's going on from the people that are doing it. And I think that's the biggest problem in today's leadership.
yeah, absolutely. So, you're also the host of Maxim TV for CEOs and entrepreneurs. So, can you share with us more about this and what compelled you to start your own channel?
Yeah, another great question. So I remember like as kids or whatever, I would go to the mall with my brother and we would be shopping around, let's say. And when I say that, meaning my brother was in a store, he would actually be shopping. And meanwhile, I was grilling the store owner about everything about his business. I'm
Yes.
like, how many people typically come in on a daily basis? How many people buy something? How many people just what's your conversion rate? How much is rent? And my brother like pulled me to the side and he's like, you can't do that. I'm like, what? What's the problem? We're just talking.
Mm,
And, I'm just very, very curious on business. Apparently, I took all these like personal assessment tests. And what they've discovered is essentially that I'm not only curious about my own business, but apparently anything like business related type stuff, I'm just very curious about.
yes.
And so I would, I just want to know everything about business, how someone runs a business, how, essentially from head to toe. And so I was once in a cab actually in New York City. I got into the cab and the cab driver literally, he's like, "Oh, you're that guy like I hear on the radio all the time." I'm like, "Thank you very much, but I'm not on the radio." And he's
Yeah.
like, "No, I know you're messing with me. Like, you're the guy on the radio, right?" I'm like, "No, I'm really not." And so, the whole cab ride, the guy was literally convinced that I was on the radio, and people
Wow.
constantly keep telling me, "Wow, you have a great radio." My dad actually was a radio guy, like he
Yes.
literally was a journalist. Um, so I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree,
The tree.
and all these a lot of these CEOs that I have on my show, I happen to be in business. I was actually before I started my company, I was working in another field, and I was dealing with people like this all the time.
Yes.
And so honestly, my brother just pushed me to he's like, you just need to start a show. And so I finally just asked someone, and finally someone just said yes.
Mm,
And the rest is history. That's kind of how this whole thing started.
amazing. So, you have a master's of business administration focused in entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurial studies from Nova Southeastern University. So, do you believe that this has given you an advantage within your own business?
Absolutely. Just a little bit of a background though. When I first graduated undergrad in Chicago, I was 21 years old and I started to go for my MBA, which was the biggest mistake I could have made.
Really?
Because um, I had no real life experience. I had nothing
Yeah.
to bring. And I remember I happened to meet someone, I don't remember his name, but he went to the Kellogg School of Business, which is one of the best business schools in the country.
Yes.
And he told me, he's like, you don't go to grad school to actually learn something. You go to grad school to network and feed off of other people's ideas and bounce things off each other. And
Yes.
that's what it's really about. And so I remember Kevin O'Leary, one of the sharks from Shark Tank, actually
Yes.
said, he's like, I don't remember a thing I learned in my grad school, but all of my friends from there, they all run banks and they all answer my phone calls.
Amazing. Yeah.
So when I actually did go to grad school at Nova, I was ready. Like, I was already in the private sector 4 or 5 years. I've seen a lot, and sometimes I felt I could have given the class sometimes.
Yeah.
And the the thing I loved about Nova was that these professors were real business people. They're not hypothetical textbook guys. These guys, for example, my professor sold his business for $120 million. He's the guy I want to talk to.
Yes.
And so these guys also never shied away from the realities of how businesses run. And so they really, I mean, it's definitely a huge advantage to have gone there, and I'm very glad I did. I had a great experience there, and I do think it's probably one of the most underrated business schools there are.
Yes. So that leads me to our current narrative, which is COVID-19, which has turned our worlds inside out and upside down. So can you please share with us how this has impacted you, and what you've had to do to adapt, and can you give us any examples?
Yeah, so as far as my business goes, it actually helped my business in a sense,
Yes.
because more and more people need more and more resume writers, and that just increased the demand for that service, which indirectly increased the demand for my service.
Yes.
So as far as that goes, that actually has been pretty good, but obviously everything has changed. Like, I don't really, it actually helped me to start this business almost, because I was actually working somewhere else, and I refused to go into the office because I do come in contact with my dad, who does have asthma, and I was obviously very concerned that if I go into an office setting and, God forbid, get something or whatever and pass it on, we would have some serious issues.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I stopped going into the office, and more and more so, my brother kept coming to me with this opportunity, and because I guess everything kind of got upended, essentially, that the timing was great to finally start the business. So I would say it actually got us to start the business in the first place. So
Yes.
I
Amazing.
wouldn't wish this happened at all, but I mean, you make of it what you can.
100%. So you've worked in a diverse sector of business, from finance to hospitality and logistics. So do you believe this has given you a competitive edge within your own career?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I've almost done every job everywhere, honestly.
Okay.
And
Yeah. And it's good because it gives you diversification, right?
that's right. And when I talk to other people, um, I know what I can hold a conversation, because I feel like I've not only just learned from it, I was there. I've done it. And I remember, even, when I was doing it, I never really did it for the money. I always felt that the experience in and of itself is going to benefit me one way or another in the future,
Yes.
because I've been there and I've seen what it really is like to do certain jobs. And so I definitely see that it's given me a huge competitive advantage for sure.
Amazing. So what are the three key pieces of advice that you would give to other entrepreneurs?
Number one, go for it. And I don't care how many times you fail, you will eventually figure it out.
Yeah,
I've
exactly.
failed multiple times. I'm 27 years old. I've failed businesses at least 3 times already. At
Yeah,
least.
yeah,
I don't care. Doesn't matter. It's just a stepping stone to success. Honestly, it's not about failing. It's, how did you fail? I want to know how I failed and why I failed. And
yes,
when I do fail, I've learned those things. And so that's number one. Just don't ever give up. But number two, you do have, follow your strengths, essentially.
yes,
Know what you're good
100%.
at, know
Yeah,
what you're not good at.
yeah,
And I definitely know what I'm not good at. And I'm lucky enough that my twin brother is very good at that stuff. My
yes,
twin brother, I would say, my twin brother by trade is a data analyst for a large nursing home conglomerate. So he knows tech very well. He knows coding and all that stuff. I can't even spell coding,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
but
that's a whole other arena.
oh,
For sure.
absolutely. But I know how to sell. I know how to deal with people. I can form relationships very well,
Mm.
and that's something that I'm very good at. And so forming the company with him, he knows the tech side. He knows how the software works, but I know how to sell it, and I know how to keep people happy, and it makes for a great relationship.
And the last question is, what legacy would you like to leave, or how would you like to be remembered?
Um, that's it's a great question. I just want to do as honestly, the one thing that I wish people would know, and it's actually one of the first things I learned in grad school at Nova, which was something that I honestly couldn't believe, was there was a lot of people think that, they have this idea or whatever, and they always just say, I don't think I could do it, or, I can never achieve that, and it's all bull crap. You can if you actually believe it. And
Mm.
so to take it a step further, the first class I ever took at Nova was talking about this. I think it was behavioral something. And honestly, at first it sounded ridiculous, but I think the thing I learned from there is out, unbelievable. There was actually a study that went on in children's classrooms
Yeah.
where they wanted to see the way the teacher treated the students, if that would affect their outcome as far as learning wise went. So
Mm.
everyone knows of like all the smartest kids in class. Then you have like people in the middle. Then you always have like quote unquote the dumb kids,
Mm.
right? So the way that this dynamic works is that the smart kids, the teacher kind of treats better naturally because the teacher, when she asks a question, they typically raise their hand. They're very involved. The teacher doesn't really give, at least like, most teachers, I would say, they don't really care about the dumb kids because they don't expect much out of them. And because they don't expect much out of them, the dumb kids just accept the fact that they're just dumb kids and they never really try, essentially.
Yeah.
And so they just remain essentially dumb. However, they reversed the script. They actually had the teachers treat the dumb kids the way they would normally treat the smart kids, and they would treat the smart kids as the dumb kids, meaning they would expect more and more out of the dumb kids, but expect very little from the smart kids. And the results were ridiculous. Everything switched. The dumb kids all of a sudden became the smart kids, and the smart kids became the dumb kids.
Yeah. Well,
So
it's
what does that
funny.
teach you?
It's funny because even when you look at students that were A students at school, a lot of those people are now just doing average jobs. They're not really excelling, and the people that didn't do so well are excelling at such a high level.
Yeah. Why do A+ students work for C- students? Um, so when I heard that, essentially that because when the teacher, expects more out of you, they start treating themselves differently. They're like, oh man, she expects more out of me. I'm gonna maybe try a little harder. Or I believe that they actually start believing that they're actually smart and they end up becoming smart people.
Mm.
And so I wouldn't consider myself the smartest guy in the world, but I do believe that when I see a goal, I really want it. I feel like I want it more than anybody else.
Mm.
And I feel that if I can just drive that message where people can actually believe they can actually do something, I feel like I would be very happy with that for sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Max. It's been great having you on. And if people want to connect with you, what are the best platforms to do so?
Yeah, LinkedIn is definitely, I'm on there a lot.
Yeah.
Hit me up on LinkedIn is very good. And that's a great platform. And I've been using it for years. So that's
Okay.
definitely a great way to connect.
Perfect. And any of the other social media platforms, or just mainly LinkedIn?
So I do have my YouTube channel, but you can also reach out to me on email, maxlandesman@gmail.com. And I'm not on. I I'm primarily on LinkedIn and YouTube primarily.
Yes,
I don't really do Instagram or anything like that. I really kind of stay on platforms where they actually make me money,
yes, of
essentially.
course.
Unless I ran like a consumer goods product, but I don't. But
Yes,
I primarily stick to LinkedIn.
perfect. So hopefully we can have you back in the future, and thanks so much for joining.
Absolutely. Appreciate the invite, and I had a blast.
Thank you.